Hey, everybody, welcome back to On Stage, Off Stage. I am your host, George Sapio, and this is episode number 192, July of 2025, and the first in our series of short plays dedicated to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Our guest this month is Cris Eli Blak, an emerging proud Black playwright and screenwriter whose work has been performed and produced around the world. He's been on Off-Broadway across the United States, university stages, as well as London, Australia, Ireland, and Canada. He is the winner of the first Black Broadway Men's Playwriting Initiative, the winner of the 2024 Charles M. Getchell New Play Award, the first place winner of Atlanta Shakespeare Company's inaugural Muse of Fire BIPOC Playwriting Festival. I'm not even through a third of his credits. Cris is one heavy-hitting writer. His short play, Impact Turn, was an immediate standout in the tidal wave of submissions for our 2025 Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion plays. Impact Turn by Cris Eli Blak. The characters, Emma, played by Dana Hall, and Chelsea, by Sylvie Eintema. The setting is Emma and Chelsea's dorm room. Chelsea is throwing clothing items into a large cardboard box as Emma enters.
Do you know the beautiful thing about debate?
Not right now.
The beautiful thing about debate.
I don't mean to be rude, but
It's a verbal argument between two people.
Emma.
It's an argument that can only be done through words. No violence, no physical violence, no fists, no blood, no scars. Well, there's scarred egos. No one has to go to the hospital afterwards. It's a clean, fair fight.
Okay.
And that's why we love it. It allows us to go to war. It allows us to go against someone and see them destroyed without actually having to destroy them. It's fun. It's addictive, especially when you get a win. When you know you've got them cornered and your points top theirs. It's knowing that all your hard work and effort has paid off. It was worth it. And you can rest in your success. Until the next day, when it's back to the books.
That was so deep.
I thought you loved it as much as I do.
Debate?
Yeah,
I do.
could have fooled me.
Excuse me?
You don't act like someone who loves it.
I'm the best on the team.
That's...
Debatable?
Oh, she's a comedian.
Ask the judges.
I've won just as many rounds.
Just as much, but not as much.
You know what? You're right. You're a champ. You're great.
Thanks.
But wouldn't you want to stay that way?
What are you getting at, Emma?
I'm getting at...
I really don't have the time.
Do you have the time for a debate?
No.
Right now, I'll let you choose the claim.
The claim is leave me alone.
Like I thought, overly confident. It's sad to see.
Are you hearing yourself?
The thing is, I thought we were friends. Good friends. Best friends. That's what bothers me the most. It honestly kind of hurts. I expect more from you. For the sake of our relationship, our friendship.
Look around, Emma. What do you see?
I see you.
That's all?
And I think you think you're too good.
I really don't.
Then why didn't you show up today for practice?
You think I didn't come because I think I'm too good?
Yes? Maybe.
You're wrong.
Of course I am.
No, you're actually wrong. I'll ask again. What do you see?
And I'll answer again. I see you.
And?
There are clothes everywhere.
Bingo.
Oh my God.
Are you catching on?
We got robbed?
Not that either.
Then why?
I don't think I'm too good. I don't think I'm better than anyone.
Oh,
Okay, I think I'm better than some people, but that's not arrogance, it's the truth.
so why didn't you come today?
I didn't think it'd be allowed.
The whole thing basically falls apart without you.
You have to be a student to be on the team.
Did you graduate without us knowing?
I'm getting kicked out.
That's not funny.
I wasn't trying to be.
Look, Chelsea, I'm sorry about how I came in. That was wrong. I shouldn't have approached you like that. Friends don't talk to friends that way. It was rude and inconsiderate.
Don't sweat it.
And maybe I've been extra moody lately, but it's just because of all the assignments I have. There's like 3 essays and practicing for the upcoming debate. It's a lot of pressure. But that's on me, not you. I shouldn't project. I'm better than that. We're better than that. So if that's why you're leaving, don't. You don't have to, because I'll do better.
Emma, I'm serious. It's not about you. It's not your fault. I'm not moving to a different dorm. I'm getting kicked out. I'm not leaving by choice. I'm leaving by force.
What? Why? That doesn't make any sense.
You're telling me.
Is this because of grades?
I wish.
You're on the president's list every semester. You have a 4.0 GPA. You're the head of the BSU.
The Black Student Union? Yeah, that doesn't exist anymore.
Is this some kind of prank? Because it's not very funny.
I got called to the dean's office this morning. They got me out of class, actually. There were a few students sitting outside the office waiting. No one knew what was going on. Everyone was just confused, not knowing if they were about to be commended or condemned. I decided it'd be best for me to just wait my turn and see what the deal was.
And?
I went into her office, smiled. Of course I smiled. I had to. Teeth showing, the pearly whites. How else can I make sure I appear to be the perfect girl, the perfect student, the perfect everything? She smiles back and then proceeds to tell me I have no future at this university. I ask why. I'm still smiling. If I stop smiling, I'll be difficult, I'll be angry, I'll give unintentional justification for their decision. She tells me they're canceling every diversity and inclusion program and initiative at the school. That includes the program that my scholarship falls under. So if my program is killed off,
So is your scholarship.
and that scholarship is the only thing keeping me here,
There has to be something we can do.
there isn't.
You have to stay.
I have to pack.
We go, we talk to someone.
Who? The bank? The financial aid office? This place is too expensive.
I can help you. I have some money saved up.
You're an RA, Emma. What you make won't even buy me a textbook.
I could ask my parents.
No,
Why?
because that's not their weight to carry. My parents can't carry me. They don't have the money. They told me not to come to this school. They told me it cost too much, and I told them, watch me get a full scholarship. I told them I'd take the weight off. And you know what? I did just that. I proved myself right, and it felt great for them and for me. I made them proud. I was going to graduate from a great school, and I was going to live a great life.
You can still live a great life.
I will. But it was no one's responsibility to ensure that future. No one except for the school. And they chose to leave me out to dry so that they can make sure they continue being funded.
I'm sorry.
Stop apologizing. I need to focus on packing.
I can help if you want.
Up to you.
It's a free country, right? Sorry. I'll help.
You know I am, though.
What?
The best. The best debater. I'm the best. I really am. I really am. That's crazy. I really am. I really am. I really am.
I know.
I really am.
You are.
The claim. Is it fair for a girl's future to be turned upside down, her life potentially ruined, not because of who she is, not because of anything she's done or anything she said, not because she's not a good person, no, only because she exists. That's her only crime. She was born and she exists. Now, debate.
That was Impact Turn by Cris Eli Blak. The characters were Emma, played by Dana Hall, and Chelsea, played by Sylvie Eintema. Cris was kind enough to give us a few minutes to come in and discuss his play and his work. Was there any kind of specific trigger that made you sit down and write this one?
It's funny because I think I've always, I don't think I know I've always had politics in my work, but I feel like a lot of the time I'm talking about politics or policy or effects on society that have been around for a while, even around before, my time. The common ones that we all know or the broad ones that we all know. I might take just a concept like addiction and write a play about it. But it's not necessarily so specified to the times we live in. And I've always been the kind of person who's like, I don't need to talk about personal politics. If you know me, you know what side I stand on, and I
Mhm.
stand on the right side. So if you have to ask me, then you probably don't know me. And so that's just always been my mindset with it. But then like the things that have been happening in the past few months
Yeah.
have been so, I don't know a word to use except insane.
Horrific.
They've been so insane that
Yeah.
it's like, to not speak specifically to the moment would be ignoring a huge elephant in the room, and a huge issue. And it feels like there's a new issue every day. Like there's not just like one thing that we're like, we need to overcome that. It's
Yeah.
like every single day a new decision is made that it is negatively impacting people, whether that be deportations, whether that be student loans, whether that mean, be tuition going, like there's like every single day there's something else that you're like, oh, another reason that we may be going into a greater depression
Yeah.
than in
Lack
the
of
third.
arts funding, not that there was a whole lot of it in the first place.
Right, lack of the funding there was, and very targeted funding, by the way, about whose funding is being cut and for
Yeah.
what reasons. um it feels like the theme of 2025, unfortunately, is silencing. And it's an abuse of power, and it's an administration saying, if you don't agree with us, if you don't look like how we want you to look, sound like how we want you to sound, we're cutting you off, and we're going to act like you don't exist. We're having major museums, their Black history exhibits removed. And it's like, okay, so this is silencing, this is erasure. We're having DEI programs wiped out.
Hmm.
Um, so it's like, okay, this isn't, we're really teeing the line of democracy, with another word that starts with D. And so I think that just watching that unfold every day and getting like the emails from the New York Times every single day, like every single hour, there's breaking news
Yeah.
from the New York Times, and it's something else insane that's happening. Um, so I think acknowledging that and being like, okay, the only way I know how to respond, I don't have a Twitter, I don't do that. So the only way I know how to respond to things is to put in the mouths of characters and try to understand it that way, and make sense of it and get it out in that way. And so that was the impulse to write
Sure.
this. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have an internal debate on how to frame this play? Because this is a huge issue. And as you just stated, it is connected to so many other egregious crimes against humanity. It's what I'm going to call it here because that's what they're doing. They're trying to destroy humanity. and it comes down to, I know as a playwright myself, and I know from talking to other playwrights that the issues are the ones that consume us. But the way you put it on such a personal level, was that your original idea, or were you trying to think of a way to attack the elephant at once? Because doing this through the eyes of one person,
Yeah.
yeah, has so much more impact. But again, we see it wrong. We want to take on the beast.
Right. Well, here's the thing is that one, the story itself of a college student having to leave school because the scholarship that she had was part of a DI program that was removed from the school, so she can no longer afford to go to school. Um, that came to me really quickly.
Mhm.
Like as soon as I knew, okay, I'm writing about this subject, that kind of hit my mind. So that didn't take much thought, and I think it's because all these things are connected. And I think I was thinking, like you said, personally, which is, okay, if I were affected by this, what would that look like? And
Yeah.
that's just what the play is. Um, it's race, but it's also class, and it's also financial as
Yes.
much as it is racial. It's okay if if I had this scholarship that was specific to me and who I am and where I come from, and that no longer existed,
Hmm.
and there is no safety net for me because I'm being targeted. So
Right.
there's no one I can reach out to or call or plead to help my case because I, to them, am the problem. My existence is the problem. So all that's wiped out. And I go to a school that, by the way, tuition is only rising.
Of
So it
course
could
it is.
cost
Yes.
anywhere from 50 to 100 something thousand dollars a year to attend. Well, at that point, you're asking an 18 to 20 something year old to pay what some people make in a year to make a good salary,
It's a
you know?
lifelong debt. Between that and the interest, you're going to spend the next 40 years paying that off.
Exactly.
And
Which also, okay, I guess I'll have to get loans. Oh, wait, but if I get loans, the second I get out of school, they're going to begin garnishing any money I make. So,
yeah,
how am I going to both make a living and pay off these debts? And even if I don't have enough in pay for them to garnish, where they go into my account, by the way, now they're taking tax refunds. So it's like it's this never ending punch in the face that's very
hmm,
specified for a certain group of people, both racially and financially. So that was easy for me because I'm in that group, man.
right.
So I was like, oh, this is very understandable because like I go to college 5 years after I do or 10 years after I do, and I'm in that exact situation.
It's crazy. It's getting an education in the United States is pretty much imprisoning yourself in debt for the rest of your life, for
Yeah.
most of us. Okay.
Yeah.
Even those folks who don't look like you and they look like me, it's, I know, God knows so many people who are just still under that thumb of monthly payments and paying off an education that really hasn't done them all that much good in the first place.
Right.
It's crazy. It's a shame we don't have other countries around the world to base our educational model on. That's, too bad. I wish there was
Super
somebody else.
unfortunate. Yeah.
You brought something up earlier and I triggered, and I want to ask you, can you separate politics from your art?
Um,
Or is all art political? That's a question I bring up every once in a while because it's been a lifelong discussion here. And I was just wondering what your take is on that.
yeah, and it's a great question. And I think it's a question that we all face, and it doesn't get any easier to give an answer to. I think personally, I think all my work is political. I think all art is political. I don't think you have a choice. I think even if it's not your intention, that the politics bleeds into it. Like I grew up on Sesame Street. When I think back on Sesame Street, I'm like, Sesame Street is very political. Like
Yeah.
that's a very specific neighborhood they live in that does not seem very high income. That does not seem like, they're not living in Soho. And so especially if you look back at like old episodes from like the 70s where there's like graffiti on the wall.
Yeah.
And so I think that it always bleeds into it because art always favors certain communities and speaks to certain uh, issues
Sure. Yeah.
and yeah. So again, even thinking about kids movies, like you see something like Encanto, which doesn't on the surface seem like anything political, but I think it's really tapping into generational trauma, especially in, you know, households of color, all the way to like something like, Sinners, which is a big hit, but it's like very political and
Hmm.
very specific, in the, talking about Mississippi, in the civil rights days, very political.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think even if we don't intend it, I think it's unavoidable.
It's going to appeal to a certain demographic at some point, which I think makes it political right there. It's either going to be
Right.
persons of color, LGBTQ. It's going to be women. It's going to appeal to. It's targeted, whether
Yeah.
directly or indirectly, pointed at someone. And the problem we've been having over the past 30 years is getting these other groups to pay attention to it, to make it
Right.
available. Okay, to
Well,
get
that's
this particular set of voices
yeah.
into a mainstream so they are heard.
But that's the thing about art as well, is maybe it wouldn't be so political or overtly political if people didn't always find a problem with it. And I think that's an effect of society, but also social media and all that,
Sure.
is that no matter how good something is, someone has to hate it. Someone has to find an issue with it. Someone has to talk about how it could have been better. And here's exactly how it could have been better without just being able to appreciate that it exists.
Right. Everybody's a critic.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the audience. It kind of goes with it. But
Yeah, right.
all right, let me ask you this. Impact turn.
Hmm?
Now, I've looked it up, so I know what this means, but let's explain for those in the audience who have not been part of a forensics team what that term means.
Yeah, so basically impact turn to me is it's a debate
Right.
term. So it's basically when an argument is used to undermine the positive or negative impact of the opposing argument. So basically, what it does is it flips the argument by showing the outcome of the other side, that the outcome of the other side is actually beneficial, or detrimental. So basically, it's like a chess move,
Mhm.
but in debate. Yeah.
It's interesting. It sounds like a really intricate thing to achieve while you're up there debating because you're always thinking and you're always finding holes and you're always remembering your own arguments. And
Yeah, yeah. And
yeah,
it's saying, okay, I'm remembering my arguments, but I'm going to use yours and find a way to manipulate it so that you're
mhm.
actually saying what I'm saying.
So you were on a debate team.
Say that again?
You were on a debate team.
Yeah, I did debate. I did debate in high school.
What was that like? That that
That
that had to be fun, right?
Yeah, I didn't do it for long. I wasn't on the team. I took a class, and I was asked to be on the team, but I just took a class, and it was great because I love talking, and I love I love arguing. I love having a point and trying to prove it to people, which is basically all it is. Um, so it was really great. My mom, she always used to say she was the first one to ever say I was going to be a writer, but then she would like follow that up with being like, "Or you could be a lawyer. They're kind of the same thing."
You could do what you love, or you could make some money.
Or you could pay off your loans.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, but I did receive a lot of lessons from it.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's a good life experience. Sadly, my high school or college didn't have those. Um, who influences you as a playwright? Who do you look up to? Whose work do you read over and over?
I need to read more. I don't read anyone's over and over as much as I should. I think who inspires me is anyone who has an individual voice. I think that's what I gravitate towards. Actually, it's funny. Last night, I found something I'd written when I was a junior in high school. And in my mind, I was going to be like the youngest successful independent filmmaker on the planet. And so I wrote this like 50-page script as a junior in high school that I was going to shoot inside the school. And it was basically do the right thing in a high school. Like it was about one day in the life of these students leading up to big boiling point. And I was like, oh, I know exactly who I was watching a lot when I was a junior in high school. It was Spike Lee. I was watching a lot of Spike Lee. And so
Yeah.
everything
Hmm.
I was writing was like pseudo Southern Spike Lee. um, uh, and so, but it's because like I remember watching Do the Right Thing for the first time at like 12 and being like, oh, this is different than anything I've seen. And that gave me permission to like try to find my voice. And so it's the people who do that I look up to. So it's people like Spike. I mean, it's musicians, it's people like Kendrick Lamar, it's people like Beyonce. Like it's literally anyone who I'm like, oh, you're very specific
Yeah.
and like unmistakable than anyone else. So yeah, anyone with just like a voice of their own who doesn't like shake that once they reach a certain height.
Excellent. Yeah. Here's one for you. Wordaholic. You've labeled yourself as a
Research.
wordaholic, and that one just grabbed me right there because
Yeah.
I love words. I could spend hours looking for the right adjective to put in a line. Drives me and everyone else crazy, but hey, that's life. Talk to me about being a wordaholic.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing. I am in love with words. I am so in love with words. I've found a way to kind of like snake my way into making a living off of words. That's how much I love words. I love the fact that I can, like you said, can find the right two words to get next to each other that sound right and that
Yeah.
meet the rhythm and the flow of exactly how I want it to sound.
Hmm.
And it aggravates me when I can't find the right two words. And I'm like, that doesn't like to me, writing and putting words together is like music. It's like I try to write to a certain pace and a certain rhythm, and one off syllable cuts that rhythm in half.
It's
And
like a
so
bad note somewhere in the
it's like a
orchestra.
bad note or like an awkward key change. And so it's
Yes.
like I try. That's why I'm a workaholic. I'm like, all right, how can I find the exact right rhythm and pacing, so that this sounds like music coming out of an actor's mouth? Because essentially, I feel like a lot of people get turned off by theater because they're like, oh, it's just people like talking on stage. But it's like if you like sit down, you watch a good play or a good movie or whatever. Like this is gonna go by if
Yeah.
that dialogue is like bumping because it's the same like neurological response as you get listening to a good song because you're like, oh, I got to keep up. It's why like people still mess with Shakespeare. It is because like even though you don't really understand the words they're saying all the time because it's written in a very specific language, somehow your brain keys into it
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, see, no, I do understand this, and it's because there's a familiar rhythm to it that you can keep up with. So that's why I'm a wordaholic, and I always have been. Before I wasn't like a playwright, I wasn't a theater kid or anything like that. Um, but I was always obsessed with like memorizing songs. I was the kid in high school who was like the annoying freestyle rapper at lunch, which basically was training my writing brain
Yeah.
because it was like, okay, I'm challenging myself to come up with the right two words to sit side by side in my head, but I'm also saying it out loud, and I also have to do it like in half a second. So I've always been in love with words and the effect that they can have on people slash audience, whatever.
Excellent. How'd you get into writing plays? I mean, it's not one of the more lucrative professions known to man, but
Clearly, I had my priorities straight. Uh,
we're not going there.
what? Listen, I wish I could tell you. I was never going down a path that wasn't artistic in some way. I think playwright is the most lucrative, actually, of the goals I've had in my life, which is funny. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an animator. I was in love with animation, but I was in love with like 2D hand-drawn animation, and by the time I reached like 10, that did not exist anymore.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I don't feel like learning how to use the computer for that stuff, even though it's probably easier. So I'm gonna move on from that. I moved on from that, and I spent a long time wanting to be a filmmaker. And then filmmaking, I realized it's expensive, and I didn't have the money, or the connections to bust into Hollywood and make a film, and I wasn't getting into USC or NYU with my SAT scores. So I went from that to poetry, and I started doing spoken word and doing like slam poetry. And that's what bled into theater, is because I was like, okay, I really like the stage. I really like the presence that you feel on a stage, and I like having like the instant gratification of what you're saying or what you've written affecting an audience emotionally in real time. And so I was like, how do I transfer the feelings of being a poet on stage to full stories like I would tell if I were making a movie? And so I think all those things that I ever wanted to be kind of bled together, into playwriting, which ironically then brought me back to like working in TV and stuff. So
Sure, yeah. It all flows one into the other the farther you go. Nobody remains in a vacuum. Last question. I don't know if you're going to like it or not, but we'll see. How do you plan on staying afloat as a writer of plays and screenplays and art in the foreseeable future?
what an awful question.
It is an awful question,
What an
but
awful,
these are awful times.
my God, man. This is nice making this into a therapy session.
Tell me how you
Listen,
feel about that. Yes.
right. How will you feed your family in the
Yeah,
foreseeable
I
future?
don't think there's a real good answer for it. It's just more or less everybody I know who's an artist right now is panicking.
Right.
And
I'm not panicking, and
okay,
that's out of character. I'm not panicking about that. Because I think at the end of the day, you have to prevail. You have to prevail against the system. Like if you're letting the system decide your fate, um, you've already kind of lost.
yeah,
Uh, I'm not thinking that way. I'm not thinking about, oh my God, this got funding got cut and they don't want this, so that means I don't have a way in. I think the point of the artist is that we always find our way in. I've never been, and because I think this is because I come from Texas. I didn't go to like a big school, Ivy League school. I don't have, and even when I did go to college, I don't have a degree in theater or writing. I've never taken any class for that. I don't have any formal education in that. I didn't come out with an agent or any connections or jobs. So I've always been in the mindset of, because I've had to, the mindset of, okay, I'm not gonna wait for someone to get me a seat at a table. I'm going to find a toolbox and I'm gonna build the table. So I'm not worried about that because I think that the people who fall off are going to fall off, and that's just going to make room for the people who, you know, do this shit because they feel like they need to.
yeah,
Whether it pays them well or pays some peanuts, like I'm gonna be here. And the thing is, like, I'm gonna be here in 4 years, and we'll see how this hopefully rebuilds. And I'll have my toolbox.
sounds great. Yeah, thank you. That was a brilliant, wonderful answer. Love it. Cris Eli Blak, it has been so much fun talking to you, so much fun working with your magnificent play, and I'm going to wish you all the best of luck. It sounds to me like you're not going to need all that much because you got most of it already.
Thank you.
Hey kids, thanks for listening to Onstage, Offstage. Onstage, Offstage is produced monthly, and all of our shows can be found at onstageoffstage.org and also on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, and Google Podcasts. If you enjoy what we do, please recommend us to your friends. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at OnOffStage. And if you are a theater artist with an upcoming project or interest, or know of someone in the theater world who'd make good chat, by all means, send us a note at onstageoffstagepodcast@gmail.com. Our theme music is Don't Worry, Be Frappy by the composer Max Dickinson. You can find a lot more of Max's magnificent music on SoundCloud. I'm George Sapio. Thanks once again for listening, and please be kind to those with whom we share this rock. And as always, happy theatering to all of you.